this time of COVID-19, we're having to make a lot of adaptations to how we do business. And one of those adaptations, of course, is that we can't bring people together to do information sessions about becoming a family-based carer with key assets. And while we're in a strange new world right now, and we've had to make a lot of changes, life still goes on. And one of the things that hasn't changed is that we have children that are in need of families. And so we're in need of families in order to support those children. And so we're taking our information session and making it virtual, and hopefully you'll get some valuable information that will entice you to decide to call us and check in and see about becoming a family-based carer. So I'm just going to provide some information about key assets and what we do, and the process of becoming a family-based carer. So we're part of an international organization, and we operate in several countries around the world. And in all of our jurisdictions, our main focus is on providing care to children and support services to children and families. And here in Newfoundland and Labrador, we provide a range of different services. So we have young people that are placed in alternate living arrangements, in individual living arrangements, or homes that are staffed by child and youth care workers who provide therapeutic care 24 hours a day. And then we have young people who are placed with families in our family-based care program. And family-based care operates very similar to what you would find in a regular foster home, except for the needs of our young people tend to be more complex. That's why they would be referred to family-based care instead of being placed in a regular foster home. And we provide significant training and ongoing support to our families. So if you're interested in becoming a family-based carer with key assets, there is a process that you need to go through. And so the first step in the process is that you can call our office. You can go online, get the information, and you can call our office. The contact information is online, and our business support officer, Sarah, will take your information and do an initial mini questionnaire with you. And that's looking for preliminary information to make sure you meet the minimal criteria to become a family-based carer. So we would look for things like your age and if you have a criminal record or some of those kinds of things. If you pass through that screening process and you meet the minimal criteria, the next thing that would happen is you would be assigned a social worker. So we have several social workers on our assessment team who do our assessments for key assets. And the social worker would be in touch with you and they would explain the rest of the process. And essentially, the rest of the process involves completing PRIDE training. And so PRIDE stands for Parent Resources for Information, Development, and Education. And it's really a pre-service training program that's designed to set you up for success when you become a family-based carer. But it's also part of the assessment process so that it gives you an opportunity to get a clearer idea of what the demand would be if you were a family-based carer, and for you to decide whether this is really the right thing for you and your family at this time. And it also provides information about children and attachment and development and some of the really key things you need to understand about taking children into your home, and particularly children who have experienced trauma, and what that might be like and some of the things that you might need to be aware of and be able to deal with and cope with if the child is placed with you. In addition to completing PRIDE, the assessment process involves a series of meetings with the assessment social worker, and that would be to gather information about you and your family, and your spouse, your children, and any relevant information pertaining to your own history and background, your views on parenting, all of those things that are important for us to be able to determine whether it's going to be a good fit for someone to become a family-based carer. The process generally takes about 3 to 6 months, and sometimes it depends on how complicated it is, how much information we need to gather. There are lots of factors that can determine the actual length of time for each applicant. About 1/3 of applicants, people who initially apply, become family-based carers. Often people screen themselves out partway through the process because they realize that it's not quite what they thought it would be, and it's not for them at this time, and sometimes we will have to screen people out. And we have to, because we are placing children in families and we we are entrusted with the care of vulnerable children, we have to err on the side of caution. So if there's anything at all that we think may prevent someone from being able to be a carer, and that might be sometimes just the issues they're already dealing with in their own family, or we're concerned that it may impact on them negatively, or whatever it may be, we will make the decision that we will not be able to approve sometimes, some people. Once families are approved, then we engage them in a matching process. And so we do, as I mentioned, have a list of young people that are always waiting for placements with us in a family, and we look very, very carefully at how we match children and youth with families. And families have the ability to say during the assessment process, I really don't feel comfortable with teenagers, or I'd rather just have teenagers, or I only feel comfortable with one child, or I'd really prefer a sibling group. So there is a lot of room for people that are becoming family-based carers to give us some ideas of what they would be most comfortable with and what would be the best fit for their family. And we do have some flexibility there. We would never require a family to take a child if they weren't comfortable with that match. And the kinds of things we look at when we're matching would be just what are the family's interests and what kinds of things do they do and what is the family culture like, and the same for the child, and then where is there going to be a good fit and what do we think is going to be a good match that's going to ensure success for this child. Many of our children, as you may or may not be aware, often come to us having experienced already a series of rejections in families or other placements, and the last thing that we ever want to do is set a child up for yet one more rejection. And so we work really, really hard to make sure that we decrease the likelihood that that's going to happen. For family-based carers, we recognize that it is a really, really important and demanding and rigorous role. And so we require that one person be home full-time to care for the child. And that usually means that if there's a couple, that one of the people can work, but the other one can't. And if it's a single carer, usually they don't work outside of the home. And so while becoming a family-based carer is not a job, we contract people as family-based carers, and we pay a tax-free allowance for the care that they provide. It does replace a job quite often, and it does require a considerable amount of time. And so we provide a very generous carer allowance to compensate for that, and to recognize the fact that people may have to give up income in order to be able to do this. And that's really important because our young people require 24-hour care. It doesn't necessarily mean that someone is with them 24 hours. Many of our young people go to school and they go out with friends and they are engaged in activities, and we encourage all of that. But it does mean that someone is available to be responsive 24 hours a day. And those are the kinds of things we talk about much more thoroughly during the assessment process, so people can get a feel of whether that would fit for their family or not. We also provide housing if needed. We know that one of the things that sometimes prohibits people from taking a child or a large sibling group, particularly into their home, is that they don't have an extra bedroom, or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 extra bedrooms. And so for families that would really like to provide care to a child, would like to be a family-based carer, but they don't have the space, we have the ability to rent houses for people to move in, so the family can move into the house with the child, and we cover the cost of the rent. So that is part of the package that we provide as a support package. For carers that do it in their own home, we provide an additional allowance that we consider a housing allowance to recognize that they're doing it in their own home. And then we also provide an ongoing training for all of our carers, covering a range of areas from attachment and development, I mentioned those 2 things earlier, to crisis intervention, strategies for dealing with challenging behaviors. Whatever the needs are and whatever our carers need some information on, we will ensure that we provide that. And we have a range of our own trainers internally, and we also have 2 therapists on staff who provide ongoing support to our children, our therapists, our carers, and our staff. So there's no shortage of people available to talk to get support from on an informal basis, but then also to engage in formal training opportunities. We also have all of our family-based carers are assigned a program supervisor, and that supervisor is their primary go-to support person. And so that person is there available to ensure that they have what they need in order to be able to fulfill their very, very important role. We also have a weekly education and support group, a carer support group, that our carers attend every Thursday morning right now actually right now they're not attending at all, but we're looking at virtual groups so that we can continue that connection even in this current time that when we're engaged in social distancing. And we offer opportunities for our carers to take breaks. We provide supports, so we have some families where there may be extremely complex needs, or there may be just a lot of children placed, where we'll provide child and youth care worker support. And the child and youth care workers will go into the home, support the family in managing the group, or they may take the child out and do outings with them, or engage in specific kinds of programming with them. It really depends. One of the things that characterizes all of our services is that they are all individualized to the needs of each child, each family. And so what we provide to one family may look very, very different than what we provide to another family. And that's because we're assessing the needs of every child and family. We don't have a cookie cutter approach. We don't provide the same services just because those are the services we provide. We work really, really hard to make sure that we try and tailor what we're doing to the needs of that particular young person. And then we have on-call supports, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We have someone available that you can call at any time if there's a crisis, and that usually our on-call supports are covered by one of our program supervisors or one of our lead child and youth care workers. Other things that we do, we try really, really hard to create a sense of belonging within our organization for our young people, but also for our carers and for our staff. And we work really hard to try and facilitate ways in which that can happen outside of just belonging to the family. And for some of our young people, sometimes it's easier to connect to the organization at first than it is to connect to the family, particularly given the history of multiple moves and multiple rejections sometimes. And so we often provide activities that young people can be engaged in within the organization. So over the years, we've offered various kinds of things like basketball, soccer, volleyball. We've done summer camps. We've done craft programs and art programs. We currently, in the St. John's region, we have a music program. And we're always looking for new activities that we can provide, new opportunities that we can provide to our young people. And that's something that shifts and changes as the needs of our young people change and as the interests of our staff change. So all of our programs are offered by our employees based on the kinds of things that they're interested in providing to our young people. And that's something we will continue to offer and continue to work on strengthening. And even right now, in this time, we're offering as much as we can. It's all, of course, just being done virtually now instead of in person. We also provide organization-wide events. So for carers, we have Carer Appreciation Lunch, we have carer social events, and then we have events that involve all of our children, carers, and our staff at least once or twice a year. So we've had Easter parties and Halloween parties and Christmas parties. We also do barbecues, and we also work with birth families. It's really, really important that our children stay connected to the birth families because no matter what's happened to them or where they've ended up, that is their family, and those connections are important. So to the extent that we're able to, and each situation varies, we remain actively involved, and that may involve supervising access, or some of our young people may have more liberal access. In some cases, our parents are involved in the care. It really varies based on the situation. But that is one of the things that is expected in the family-based care role, is that there would be, as needed, some potential connection with the birth family as well. But we also provide education supports. We have 2 teachers on staff that provide supports to young people in their school programs, and we also have some young people that don't attend traditional school, and they attend school in our learning program with one of our teachers. So to kind of sum up, I know that's a lot of information, and there's more that I could provide, but not in a short little video like this. We are really, really focused on ensuring that we provide the best possible care to every child and youth that is in our care, whether that's in family-based care or in a staffed home, or in family intervention, or in whatever kind of services. And one of the things that is important in order for us to do that is for us to recognize that we need to understand that our young people have experienced trauma. Our young people and families have all experienced trauma, and we need to be focused on providing trauma-informed care and being trauma-informed. And what that means is just understanding that trauma impacts us. It impacts our development, it impacts the way we see the world, it impacts our coping skills, And we need to support people to be able to work through that with a recognition of where they are and what they need. And the carers are the most important change agents in this whole process. So our model is focused on an understanding that is the people on the ground. So in our organization, that is our family-based carers and our child and youth care workers, who are going to help promote change, who are going to help promote healing, who are going to provide the supports that people need in order to be able to move on with their lives. And our role in the organization, the rest of us, is to support those people. And so we fully recognize the pivotal role that family-based carers play in the lives of our young people, and the therapeutic value that occurs in the daily life events, in the everyday. It is when you're getting a child up in the morning for school, it's when you're putting them to bed, it's when you're eating breakfast, when you're driving in the car, when you're lying on the floor watching cartoons. That's when the magic can happen, and that's when the therapeutic intervention occurs. And it's our role as health carers to be able to exploit those opportunities and understand how to do that in a way that's going to be the most healing for young people. So to end, our organization prides itself on bringing a can-do culture. We have a proven track record for being able to engage with young people and families. We don't give up. I think we will never say no. We're not real good at saying no at all, actually. We will never say we can't do something. Our question always is, how can we do it? How can we do it? And how can we make changes if we need to in order to do it better? And we are very proud of we have a positive and healthy organizational culture. We work really hard on that, and we're constantly focused on ensuring that we provide the best possible environment for everybody in our organization. And so if you're interested in joining with us and becoming a part of that, you can feel free to contact us and inquire about becoming a family-based carer.